Morning Wake Up 1320 WILS. This week there's been a story out M Live here. Interesting story where you can actually look at all the states and see the average, state by state, the average refund or the average that someone who does owe the IRS has to pay. Kind of, you drill down further. In Michigan, they did the data mining. And here in the capital city, for example, the 48910 zip code, in the recent tax year, most recent tax year, 2014, the average refund in 48910 was $2,380, and 82% of the folks who filed got some money back from the government. Those who had to pay, the average payment amount was $1,860. Well, all of that, of course, is predicated on the fact that you either do the taxes yourself or you get a quality preparer, one that you know and trust, does a good job for you, and is well known and respected. Guess what? That doesn't always happen. One of the great tax scams is preparers out there who are unscrupulous, and they steal from their clients, and they are part of a group you have to be careful and look out for. Kyle Walters, not in that group. He's with Atlas Tax Advisors, financial and tax strategist. But, of course, you know, when you're with your brother wizards out there, you want to clean up your own shop and make sure that people aren't claiming to be what they're not. Kyle's with us this morning. Kyle, good morning.
Good morning, Dave.
Well, you don't want to have people giving your business a bad rap because most all tax preparers do a great job. They save their clients money. They know where to find the deductions that they are entitled to under law, but there are those who don't care about the law.
Yeah, the biggest thing to watch out for, Dave, when you're talking to a preparer, you're meeting a preparer, is a few things that you can do that can really confirm whether or not they can, one, file your taxes in the first place. So make sure that they've got what's called a preparer tax identification number.
PTIN.
Right? That's easy to PTIN, that's right. Also, check their credentials. So realizing that, you know, they're an attorney, a CPA, or an enrolled agent, they can represent you in front of the IRS. And there's continuing education that goes along with that. You know, you can look at the Better Business Bureau, check their history, right? See if there's any complaints on there. And a big thing that, you know, you can kind of, intuitively understand pretty early is the way that they bill and the way that they charge. So if you see a preparer that's starting to charge based on, you know, the percentage of the refund they can get you, that should send up a red flag because that obviously means that they could be trying to be a little bit more aggressive than maybe they otherwise should be.
Mm-hmm. So, and again, well, tell me more about what you mean by that, because, you know, we're normally dealing with people in our lives that, you know, a flat fee isn't always the best deal, but at least you know going in that they're not going to pad numbers because it's not to their advantage. But what about that percentage? What about that is specifically a red flag? Do you think that means that they'll be so aggressive that they'll be looking for illegal deductions or deductions that no way in the world you're entitled to?
Right. You know, lots of times when a tax preparer gets your information, there's only so much that can be done, right? So, you know, a CPA is not going to be a magician. They're going to have to work within the boundaries that the IRS gives them. So you don't want them starting to step into that gray area where you have to start, you know, putting up undocumented numbers or undocumented, you know, deductions. That can start getting you on the audit list where, you know, once the IRS starts raising red flags on a CPA like that, keep in mind, you know, if you have somebody that doesn't need documentation from you, they don't need it from others either, you know, which is never a good thing.
No, I wouldn't think so. Now, if you have your return prepared by somebody else, they're supposed to be listed, right?
That's right.
If somebody doesn't have a PTIN and you get to that part and they say, oh, look, I'm going to help you get every deduction I'm going to get, and I want you to pay me this amount, but I don't want to be listed on your return, that would probably be a whole set of red flags, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, keep in mind, theoretically, anyone could file your return, right? Your brother-in-law could file your return. He's just not going to be able to represent you in front of the IRS. So there are certain, you know, hurdles that you want somebody to be able to get over, which is, again, making sure they're registered with the IRS, making sure, you know, the Better Business Bureau has good things to say or at least no bad things to say.
What are some of the worst cases like this I mean, you're in the business, so you've seen probably just about everything. What are some of the worst horror stories that you've seen involving tax preparation and people who will cheat others based on preparing their taxes?
You know, in the actual tax preparer space, It's not as common. I mean, we see a lot of the stuff that's happening right now is a lot of the email phishing scams where they're trying to get your personal information.
Right.
Where the scammers are really starting to get aggressive is they're starting to actually go after legitimate tax preparers. And they're starting to kind of act like they would with a normal retail consumer. They're trying to do that with tax preparers and trying to get into their systems and get them to release personal information. And then they're going to try to file on behalf of those taxpayers early.
We're visiting this morning with Kyle Walters with Atlas Tax Advisors here. Kyle, does the industry itself, does the tax preparation industry, which is, I guess, somewhat separate from those like, again, in the legal side, who, are there to mitigate problems with taxes that come after the fact. And sometimes they cross over, but not always. Is the industry itself police itself pretty well, you think? You hesitated on that.
Well, they have the AICPA, which is an industry specifically for CPAs.
Okay.
When it comes to that, which is different, right, than when you have like an EA, which is somebody that can file your returns, can represent you in front of the IRS, but not necessarily being a CPA. So the most important thing when you're looking at this is, when you say, well, how do I find somebody that's going to be good, right? That's going to file my taxes in the right way, save me some money, not charge me too much, all those things. The best place to start is a friend of yours that may be really happy with their CPA. That's a great place to start. And then do all those other checks and balances that we mentioned. If you're doing all that, you should be just fine.
Well, I had a neighbor ask me, an elderly who had recently lost her husband and, had to have some tax stuff taken care of in preparation. They asked me, who would you recommend? When somebody asks you to recommend, you need to take that seriously because, again, it's their federal, their state, even their local here in Lansing income tax. It's not a little thing, and it's a weighty responsibility. So I guess when you do get a recommend request, be careful with who you recommend as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, taxes are typically the biggest line item expense on somebody's budget. Yeah. So you should really be thinking through who that person is that helps you manage that line item.
Is okay. And as we prep here for this is a hugely busy time of year for the IRS and people getting their stuff in. More and more file electronically now. Things go quicker, ostensibly. Is this going to be, as far as in your opinion, for the IRS, is this going to be a year where they're looking more closely at returns? Maybe there'll be more audits, more that are I guess earmarked for a further deeper dive. Will there be less than in recent past, or should it be about the same?
I would say it's probably, again, this is a guess, but I would say it's probably going to be about the same or a little bit lower. The IRS is not staffed. They don't have as many employees as they used to. Yeah. So they're starting to try and rely more on technology, more on some of these other, other avenues rather than just IRS agents individually auditing. Mm-hmm. So if you're not in a super high income bracket or have red flags that are popping up on your return, your chance of audit's pretty low.
And that goes, and that's changed somewhat over the years, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
It goes with staffing overall. Of course, things computerized now, and the refunds can happen very quickly. It's kind of amazing when things do work well. The turnaround can be quite rapid. Kyle Walters here, Atlas Tax Advisors. Kyle, where do we find you online?
AtlasTaxAdvisors.com.
Boy, that's easy to remember. Kyle, thanks for being here very much. Talking about the dirty dozen tax scams, one of the big ones, preparers out there who are unscrupulous. Most aren't. Almost all of them aren't. But the ones who are, look out. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks. Have a good one.
1320. This is WILS.